3. Alrighty. Huh?
So the record 3 people.
I know.
Did Bob want to, would Bob need to present this in public participation?
He's on the agenda.
No, he's under casino though. Does he want to be under? Yeah, I guess so, Bob. Actually, that probably is the place for you just to tell us about this since it is our communication from you. Yep.
I was going to tell you about the casino, but I did pass something.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about this. We'll do casino and casino. But this is our communication from you, so you want to explain this to us a little?
Yeah, I got it today, and it came from CCM, and it's the governor's latest proposal. And I'll read the email from George Raphael from CCM. And what he says is, the governor released a revised state budget proposal today. Attached are the FY18 grant estimates under this proposal. We are reviewing the documents and
At a time where it stands as opposed to last year, did not reduce the cash flow report. So,
That is
sorry.
That is okay.
And then there is a report from Carol, the assessor, that talks about where we stand right now, some of her, the status of her problem,
Yeah.
her appeals, I should say, not problem accounts, that was an improper terminology.
Well.
I don't think there's anything really good there. So,
No. You have your transfer.
I have one transfer, it's an old fiscal year transfer. It was something that had gotten sent in for payment that out of the pension fund it shouldn't have been. So it was with eligible expenses, like there were requests for calculations for retirees, and they had added an item on there that should not have been paid out of the pension fund. It should have come out of the town legal expense. So we caught that error and we've since rectified it, but I had already got all the transfers done for the legal line. So this created an additional legal expense that we need to cover. So the proposed transfer is from debt service to the labor relations line, 1531.25.
All right, do I have a motion for transfer number 56?
So moved.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion clearly passes. I have Melissa's stuff in here, the ice rink.
Okay,
So what did we end up with that? You and I discussed it. but
yes, we don't need to take any action on that.
I didn't think so because,
It was just, she was looking for approval to make the expenditure, given the current status of the freeze.
Mhm.
So it was something that is, and she's using from general fund budget line for, she's not looking for more money. It was just
So
simply
it was-
authorization,
Yep.
given the current environment, to
Yeah.
go ahead and make that.
okay.
And we actually did come in under budget. I did get an email from her today. She's replaced, or she's done it, so.
So she did do, okay.
That's the way to do
All right,
it.
good.
You betcha.
Okay, good. Good, good, good. Nice catch on your part too, though. Awesome. So, okay, so we are done with town financials, we're done with transfer, on to our unfinished business, which, well, Cindy, you asked for this to stay on until whenever. That's why the casino's on, but then Bob asked to talk about some information on the casino, so we left it on. So, Bob, the floor is yours. Because you really didn't have anything right now, right?
Well, I
just
sent you
wanted-
that. I sent
Yeah,
you
we can
the-
discuss that too,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to pick up the ball on the ordinance regarding the town of East Windsor Casino Impact Fund, which you established. So here's my idea of what the purpose is of the fund. And I'm really here to listen to you guys tonight. So I said that the purpose of the ordinance regarding the Town of East Windsor Casino Impact Fund is to, one, direct the $300 million upfront payment and the $3 million subsequent annual payments received from MMCT Venture LLC to be deposited in the Casino Impact Fund. And the second purpose is to direct the money in the Casino Impact Fund to be used to ensure MMCT Casino has a positive impact on the town of East Windsor. So that's what I think the purpose of this fund is, but I'm here to listen. If there's other purposes,
So this is, the fund, this casino impact fund is the year going by the motion we passed at our last meeting.
and what I'm thinking about, and I'm listening to people, I listened to the Board of Selectmen last meeting we had, and actually the people sitting in the audience too, and got their ideas of what the details of the, or some of the details of the way the money would be distributed, and just what would be in the ordinance of the fund. And so I'm open to anything anybody has to say, but I'll have some questions that might elicit some responses. One is, what do you think the role of the Board of Finance should play in the process of distributing the funds in the Casino Impact Fund? Do you have an idea of what role?
But this is a discussion for all of us, it's not just,
Well, with our
I
motion
don't
last
think-
month, at our last meeting, it's clear, you follow the charter. And right now, that money to be moved out of the account that we created, and that's been voted on, you would have to go through the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and a town meeting. That's the way it's set up right now with our motion, and it's all done. Other than that, whatever you guys want to do later on in a policy statement, that's up to the Board of Selectmen.
All right, so you're saying that the role of the Board of Finance would play is the same role they play in the charter, and it sounds to me like you're saying it's the same way you have a supplemental appropriation
It allows us to ask that the Board of Selectmen look at it first, we look at it second, and then the town votes on it. Now, that can change with a policy change on the part of the Board of Selectmen, but until that's accomplished, that's how the money would be handled.
Okay,
Which is what the way it should be with any money. The only difference is we've created a fund already and it exists. If the money showed up today, that money should go into that fund.
okay. Another question. Anybody else want to?
I wanted to add, I had sent Jerome a note just before we even get that far, it kind of takes us a step back, that none of this has been run by the auditor at all.
That's true.
And that I didn't understand the difference of what makes, when you could put money in a fund and when you can't. We had the auditors really forcefully say we could not keep the tar money in a separate fund, that it had to go in the general fund. It cost us $350,000 expense dollars to make that accounting change because we had to do it. So it would be nice to make sure we know that the auditors are okay with us taking this money outside of the budget.
I agree with you. That's good.
Because
That's
they
good
might
thought.
come in and say, no, you gotta put this in the budget.
But there are, and I'd ask, there are other funds, and maybe Gail can help me, there's a open space fund we have that, so that's a separate fund. The money goes when a builder comes in and constructs, well, maybe an apartment house or a complex and, or a subdivision, and they said, the planning and zoning said, we have to put some aside, open space aside. And they said, but we'll take a payment in lieu of open space. And then they collect the payments in lieu of open space and buy a large quantity of open space. So it's funds taken in designated to a particular purpose. And I guess there's other funds too, like the hypertension.
Police, private duty.
There's
yeah,
There's 15 other funds,
Yeah.
plus there's 5 other, a different type, and there's
So,
a
but
ton
you're
of
right.
different funds. And I do think it should, you know, I hope that it stays in a fund, but I do think, the thing as an accountant, why we question it is because the expenses are gonna be the same type of expense that's in the general budget. It's gonna be police salaries. Whereas like the open space fund is using something outside of the normal budget. It's a different bill, it's a different thing.
Yeah, but
How
that's
do you
exactly
then-
what the impact money is for. It is for something separate than what's
Right.
in the general fund. And that's why you should separate it, and the open space is a good example why. Because if you take all the open space money and use it for something other than open space, when open space becomes available, you can't purchase it. It's the same thing with the impact money. You can't take it and use it for something else for when you have impact happen.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I
As
think
far
it
as
needs to be.
what's
it needs to
defined
be-
as impact is up to the Board of Selectmen to figure out, because that's their policy. We're not making that policy.
Right.
We're just making sure that money is put in a proper spot, and the only thing we're waiting for is if there was a question on the legality, but other than that, I don't think there is, because I do put it the same as the open space theory. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, my question is, according to GAAP, generally accepted
Same
accounting
concept.
principles, is it going, we need to make sure it's legal and make sure that it's.
Well, of course, but in open
that's
space,
the
it's
only
the
thing-
same
That's my
principle.
only thing. It may be fine, it may not, you know, I don't know, but.
And I think it's a good idea. Definitely check with the auditor, and they're going to be here tomorrow, so we can ask. Another question that's getting it a little more granular. Do you have any ideas of what you think the process for distributing the funds would be? And I know you said it would go to the selectmen and then the board of.
I repeated what the charter would require as of this point, because we didn't have a place to put it. I wanted it put somewhere, and so did this board, and so now it's sitting somewhere. If you want to move that money at this point, what you have to do is go through the process in the charter.
Right, but I'm saying with an ordinance, we can develop another process.
I would be honest with you, Bob, that I would hope that, and I know it's, what, October, November's around the corner. I would hope that your new board, whoever it turns out to be, would have enough common sense to, I don't think what was presented across the street when it was time was bad. It's a good idea. It needed tweaking, and the meeting was a disaster in my eyes. I'll leave it at that. So I would hope that they would take that, they would tweak it, and put something like that together. Because I think when you have something like that, and you have all of these different boards, nobody does it on purpose, but everybody has their heart in their board, say, be it any of them, you know, that's why they're there. They're serving on their board and they have their heart in their department or their board. And you need people out, you need clear eyes, and not even just Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen, because you know what? They have their pets too. They have it not on purpose. Everybody just has their things that are close to their heart. And that can't play a role in this. One has to play a role in what's the best for the town of East Windsor working with the casino. And there can't be gray areas, so you've got to create a board of people, or however you want to do it, that's going to, hopefully you create a policy very similar to the one over there, but tweak it so that it can be handled well. And I think that people just, there was too much information that night, it was too confusing, it was just a disaster, but it has to be something close. And I hope that you guys can do it when the time comes when you get your new board.
One of my thoughts was that very shortly, obviously, the towns are going to be, the departments are going to be asked to start their budget process. Obviously, we have no clue what well, we have probably some clue, but no clue what the MMCT's timeline is to start and when they may potentially be able to make this payment to us. So I think, you know, departments, whether it be police, fire, public works, whatever, need to submit a budget, not like they would, like with the casino wasn't going to be here, but they also need to submit separately what they see. If MMCT comes to us in January and says we're going to open in, I'm just going to say 15 months from whatever January is, so that check would be due to us. So we would need to start our process of preparing for MMCT to open, what they would need for additional funds should that come there. And that additional money request would be separate. That would be looked at for this $3 million payment that would be made, and that would be go through the selectmen and the finance, like Jim has said, and be distributed to the departments to start to get ready for when the casino shows up or starts operation. That would be my suggestion, going to the town, starting the budget process, because if the police department's kind of guessing and say, hey, this may open and whatever, we need to start preparing for this because it takes time to hire officers. We don't want that to be as part of the budget process. Eventually, it's some of it, I imagine, over time, we may roll it into that, but starting up, my understanding is that's what this $3 million is for us to prepare for them.
Exactly.
So I think that's why we ask our departments to prepare for, like, this wasn't going to happen, but also prepare on a separate thing, maybe a request that, should they say they're going to open within 15 months in the next current fiscal year, what are we going to need to start this process? And I think that's the money that we would then look at how to distribute this $3 million. However, the selected finance, whatever come up as a way to do it. That would be my suggestion to.
But let's talk about the immediate stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
that first $3 million is supposed to be to
Yeah.
build safety and things like
Yeah.
that. I don't want to hear the wish list of the world.
Yeah, we don't want the wish list, but what do you need to start this
that's
process to get
ridiculous.
ready for this to show up on the scene?
Well, and that's why it
And
should
that's why it
always
should
be
go through the
separate.
selectmen and the finance, and it should be separate from whatever they request from their normal budget, because we don't want them to start saying we need to hire this, and this, and put it in the budget. It needs to be as a separate, you know, appendix or whatever you want to call it to their budget request at the time.
I like what you said, and I'm glad I came here tonight, for many reasons, but that's good. That I wasn't thinking of the idea of starting it right now and saying, let's make a list of what you need, to all the departments and anybody who thinks that they would need money,
Yep.
commissions, boards. That's a good idea, we should do that now.
Yep.
And
Yeah, 'cause
then we can figure out, yeah.
Because if they come to us and whatever, but, I mean, and just like, you know, July of next year and say, yeah, we're going to open within 15 months, we don't know when that's going to happen. So
No.
we need to start that process now, and if we request the budget, whether it be
Right.
request December.
Good idea.
So we could actually potentially have that in February to say,
You could have a list in
Yes.
January, maybe,
yeah, so that would be my suggestion.
that's a good idea.
I really think once the budget is approved and it's laid out what that money's gonna be spent on, then it's just a matter of us processing it in the treasurer's office. I mean, it's not like mean, once you can determine who's gonna be signatory on that department, if you will, the same as all department heads approve. But as far as like day-to-day, I don't think it's gonna require a whole lot of oversight. You know, it's once you know a category of expense goes there, then it's just a matter of,
Keep track of it like we do
yeah,
the rest of
everything
the.
else.
Yeah.
Well, but it shouldn't be, again, mixed with the budget. You gotta
Well,
keep it
because
separate.
The other point of this is, you know, this current cycle runs until June 30th. Should we have to start so much beforehand, and they give us the $3 million, we can't run it through the general fund because we already got our budget approved, and it's not
Right.
approved in there. So that's why this would need to be separate and go through
But that's
that.
why it should be separate conversations in front of the Board of Finance as well. It shouldn't be presented as part of their, well, here's my general budget, and now I'm gonna give you what, the three, no, it should be, they should be making their general budget up that would encompass this year and next year, because they should be thinking down the road what they think things are gonna cost even. And then what they should be doing is then making the list and keeping it ready to go. But it's really not something that should be presented. In other words, down there, I was hearing general budget, and we need to call it what it is. It's the impact fund, and it would be the processing of the impact fund.
See, I think it would get confusing though, especially when you're talking about police officer salaries.
We do that with private duty now.
But you have private duty officers.
No,
But-
all officers are eligible.
All officers.
Right, or
Private
out
duty.
for private duty.
So
But
when
say,
they do payroll, there's a separate column in their payroll that says, this officer worked X number of dollars this pay period in private duty. So on their pay stub, it shows private duty. When I post that payroll, those payroll dollars and the related FICA and Medicare go to the private duty fund, and that's offset from the revenues that come in. That never hits the general fund.
I guess when I think about the demands on the police department, it's hard for me to imagine to say that only these officers are gonna have to deal with the casino and that the casino's not gonna affect anybody else. It's gonna have an overall effect on the police departments. Different people are gonna be doing overtime for different things or whatever. It seems to me to be murky on how
In
you're
fact,
gonna.
I believe, and I haven't talked to the chief, Police DeMarco, but I think he intends to, any extra police officers he get, just to integrate them in with the rest of the police departments and not really have designated officers for the casino. He might be I believe there's 3 officers on a shift now, then maybe there'll be 4. Or maybe there'll be some shifts when they need an extra person for the casino and not. But I think they'll be integrated in, so.
The point is though, that the police department is operating with, how many officers they have now?
26.
26? If they have to hire another
25.
4, or whatever they have to hire, I don't know what the number's gonna be, that's an additional expense to the town that should come out of this fund right now.
Absolutely.
And you'll be able to take it out
When I was
separate.
put it before the Board of Selectmen at the last meeting, and some people from the audience were talking, giving ideas. One person said that if you have a recurring expense, you want to, and that would be a policeman's salary, you want to make sure it comes out every time, and you've got a plan for that, so in a sense, you're encumbering some of the expenses from that fund, at least in contractual, as long as the contract's and with the policeman is there, then you would have to always take those expenses out, so.
I guess because I'm looking at the really, really nitty gritty, because I used to, being an accountant too, that you have to consider the taxes,
Right.
all of the benefits, everything that goes with it. But I guess if you're not trying to do it hour per hour, person per person, and
Yeah,
just
like
say we
benefits,
have, it's
we
a bigger
do
thing. If you-
Benefits, we break out, like, we pay one check and for health
And then
insurance,
you
but
get
like
a breakdown.
WPCA's gets charged for their people, and so.
So it
Eventually,
would be just, I'm sorry.
and personally, I would hope that once we get this up and running and everything is there, I mean, it's gonna be difficult at the beginning, is that we need to have a serious look at our charter and amend that charter to be able to take in all this, so eventually this should run out through the general fund.
Right.
But we need to, when that charter gets revised, look at it for what it needs to be revised for, is the impact of the casino in the town, so that we're not stuck, because right now, there's no way, I mean, if we had to roll this in a general fund and we do have to present I don't know, 10%, I'm just throwing a number, a 10% budget increase out to town, we know that's not gonna pass. And then we try for that 2%, so that needs to be
That's why it has to be
somewhere,
protected.
that's part of the reason we're having to look at it this way. I mean, if we didn't have that 2% thing in there, we could present it the way it needs to be, we probably would roll it into the general fund.
Right.
But until we can change our charter to allow us to get this to happen, we're stuck doing it this way.
We could be in a real jam, and that's why it needs to be separate, treated separately, looked at separately. When it comes to the police officers, and Bob can certainly, Leach can certainly correct me, but I believe right now what's killing us with payroll is the overtime, because we don't have enough for what we have to try to accomplish. And if you live down in Warehouse Point, I can tell you about every 20 minutes, woo, them fire engines and ambulances every single day. So they're busy, and it's car accidents, and it's this, and it's that. It's not just one thing or another. So I'm hoping that would clear up the overtime if we actually end up with a couple of more officers.
The other thing that might be helpful when you're looking for budgets for the casino impact fund is to get department heads to do a timeline, so
Yeah, well,
that you know when those monies need to be expended.
Well, and I would think, get by the Board of Selectmen, they would have to justify the way it's set up now. The first person they gotta go to is, well, depending what it is, they might need to go to CIP first or something. But eventually they'd get to the Board of Selectmen, and the first decision they should be making as policymakers, is this really a factor of impact? In other words, you can't just come through and say, well, I need this, so we're gonna, no, it's gotta have an impact. And I would hope the Board of Finance realizes that coming out of that fund, that's exactly what the Board of Finance would have, a fiduciary responsibility to make sure it's going toward impact stuff, not something else. If they make the case and they get to the town meeting votes yes, it's done.
Anything else?
I think it's very good. I definitely got a feeling, and what, I'm gonna put something together, a straw man, after you say, like with a new board. And I'm gonna talk to all the departments and everybody else I can talk to. Probably we'll have a public hearing too, and just get input. I'll put something together, and that'll be a straw man, and you can tear it apart. But I should think we, the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen, can kind of come to, and everybody involved, and not everybody's going to agree, but we could come to a pretty close agreement. And like you were saying, Gerald, what was presented was a good start. So do a little tweaking, and maybe we can all not have such a chaotic meeting. Okay, well, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Camera on? The light isn't on.
I was having trouble. It doesn't seem to be connecting.
I got a YouTube notification.
Is it not, can you see it on YouTube?
That camera was like pointed at the ceiling.
Oh, yeah. Why is it over there?
Cool.
Oh, yeah, one camera's not working. So we're looking at Mr. Lee?
Are we looking at Bob? I think
Yeah.
we're looking at Bob.
I'll see, well,
Yeah,
thank
the
you very
green
much,
lights are
and
gone.
I'll see if I can work get the camera going. Maybe if I get it by the time it's over.
On to Board of Education update, which Gail passed out and already kind of gave us a heads up. Everything seems to be going well, so that's awesome. Yes. All right, well, Bob, don't go too far away. What's going on with this treasurer position? We're killing Gail here, and we need to give her a break, so.
Well, yeah, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, we're gonna interview Judy Iselli. And she's been interviewed by Gail and the treasurer or chief financial officer of South Windsor, and myself and Amanda. And did I leave somebody out? Bob, or Bill?
Bill?
And she seemed to be pretty good. And so we're gonna let her answer questions to the board of selectmen tomorrow at 6 o'clock. It'll be open, and it won't be in closed session. So I haven't asked her if she wants to be on the camera. I don't know if I can get it to work, but if she agrees, we can watch it. And so she seems like a pretty good candidate. She's a CPA. I'd say if she has a weakness, and it's that she doesn't have as much municipal experience as someone that might, but they're very hard to find. And also, she has been on her town's Board of Finance for over 10 years, so she speaks pretty well. She kind of understands.
What town?
East Hampton.
Hampton or Hampton?
Hampton.
So she seems like
Is
a
it-
pretty good candidate.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but East Hampton, was that not the town that one of the ladies we interviewed was a contractor at? That you guys all wanted to hire, but that didn't work out?
No, that one we wanted to hire was doing work and had retired from Windsor Locks.
From Windsor Locks, remember she said she had done consulting work, and I thought that was one of the towns she consulted at.
Well, maybe, I can check.
I thought it was East Haddam.
Was it
Oh,
East Haddam.
East Haddam, East Hampton, it just sounded familiar.
They're not that far away.
Gail,
I know, right?
Gail, what is the certification for treasurer? I thought you held it. GCPFO, what is it?
Well, I hold a certified public finance officer certification.
Do we have a requirement for that position? Do we have a requirement to hold that certification for
There's only about
treasurer?
500 in the country. You might have a hard time
You
finding one.
have to send it.
I know, but is there not a requirement to be certified for a treasurer?
No, it's not.
Okay,
Highly recommended, though.
okay.
Highly recommended.
All right, well, hopefully that goes well tomorrow night. Discussion of FY 18-19, I think that was just on because somebody had asked for it to be left on. I don't think there's really much we have to discuss in that. New business, we already
Kind of discussed that a little bit when my point to Bob, and it was something I
Yep.
was thinking of, was that, you know, when the towns, the departments do the budget like this casino's not gonna happen, but it's that separate component, so we can, but that was one of the things I had for that, but it came up during the casino
Oh, okay.
discussion.
I was gonna say, once the 3 million shows up, because, well, they can request
And we don't know
that,
when that's gonna happen.
but it would be a separate, treated as a separate animal,
Yeah,
you
well, we
know.
don't know when it's gonna happen, but we do have the commitment that we have to have our heads wrapped around an idea before that. So,
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, we have to
In our contract.
get a
or whatever.
process for the distribution of the funds. And I like Bill's suggestion that, let's make a list. Let's find out who wants what now. We can figure that out now. Maybe that's how we're gonna decide, or who's gonna decide, but you gave me a process too, so.
And are you done?
Good.
Go ahead.
That line item too was just to discuss, to make sure that we were looking at ways to answer the questions like, how are we gonna save the big amounts of money that we're looking at when we do the budget each year, that we're looking at the different contracts and know what it's gonna cost us to change major items without.
Yeah, but again, when you do the budget each year, that, other than what has been approved for impact.
I'm not talking about the
No,
impact.
she's talking
I'm
about the regular
saying
budget.
The
Oh.
regular budget, the
Right.
reason we put that line item in was to look at,
Was to
I'm
request
just
the
trying
Board
to
of
think, of-
Selectmen to think of ideas to find ways to save money because it's not growing on trees.
right, and I don't want to give specifics because it was really wrong of us to do saying some things, but you have to fund public safety and education and the things that are, that we're looking at. We didn't have much ability to say, oh, we could just cut this or cut that because we didn't know the cost associated with,
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just like-
It just to kind of push you to make, the budget can't exist in the same way that it does now, that we can't provide the same services. We have to make some kind of changes.
Well, I guess the question would be too, that you bring it up, it made me think of something we were talking about before, a ways ago. You mentioned at our last meeting that the senior director had given her notice. So I guess my question to you is, what are you gonna do about that? Is that an opportunity to make,
Yeah, we're thinking
to,
about reorganizing.
yeah, is
So-
that the
That's-
perfect
that's-
opportunity to find a
Yeah.
way to save? To do better at what, to do better at what we're doing and also at the same time maybe save, so.
Well, and unfortunately, that's one of the things that you're talking about of concern is things like the senior center and so on, if we're not careful. Not that we want to cut it, but we're running out of places to take money from. You keep the budget down. I mean, last year we were given a 4% at the beginning. We cut it by what, 2 something, and there wasn't really much left unless we started cutting into services that people want. So,
Yes.
points well taken, Cindy.
Anything else? All right, new business was the liner for the ice rink, which we already discussed. So that just leads it to number 11, board member comments. I'm gonna make one real quick as far as this. This is the annual report text. It is what we put in for the Board of Finance. So you guys got a copy of that.
It's just a rough draft.
And it's just a rough draft for us to read over it really quick. I did notice that, I think maybe Amanda, maybe Jennifer, I'm not sure. Somebody had to send out another request for a note. It doesn't sound like everybody's put in their reports on time again. So which ones are we missing?
I don't know. And,
Okay.
well, they're missing mine, but I have it written in pencil. But as I was writing it this weekend in pencil, I realized that next year is the 250th anniversary. And really, we don't publish that until January 1st. So I'd like to have something about it. It would be nice to pick up, I think, and see 250th on the cover, and maybe a little more information about that in the annual report. That's
Well,
what
you
I think.
have, is it Jennifer who's working?
Well,
took it
Jennifer
over
and
from the
Amanda
treasurer and
are
Amanda,
putting
yeah.
it together, and Gail's helping too. So, if it's all right, I'd like to go reach out to them and see if they can add some information, like a calendar.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
That would be good.
and I asked Gail, what's the deadline to get it to the publisher? And Jen, and the reason I asked her was Jen wasn't in, and she has the details, so I'll find that out.
And remember too, it's not just to get to the publisher, it's gotta get to us, to read it, to edit it,
Okay.
and then get it to the publisher. So
point.
we need that in between time too.
Okay.
So, all right, perfect. All right, and my only other comment is I want to thank all of you for the great job you've done and the great service you've done. We are going to see a change, or maybe, yeah, we're definitely going to see a few changes. So our board is going to shuffle it up a little. Actually, it's right around the corner. Gosh, where's time going? But anyways, I wish all of you luck. I hope to see everybody close to back again that can be back again. And those others, I wish you luck. And thank you for all that you do. And East Windsor is very lucky to have you on this board. So thank you. Anybody else?
Good to go.
Good to go? All right, well, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Peace out, Cub Scout.
Thanks.
Go with this, or are you guys gonna get back to me?
Well, we've got time, right?
Selectmen's meeting at 6.
I mean, I like
Instead of
it,
7?
so let me, yeah, I don't really,
6 o'clock's the
I mean,
point.
who reads ours anyway?
Well,
Yeah.
feel free.
Yeah, you can certainly add.
Special selection.
Today's,
So you're totally down? Or you're not?
Right, do or die, you know? Like, you're like, that means I get to relax when I'm dealing with
I
messes.
complete track of life and time.
That's all that is.
Somehow,
I mean, there's other things on the page. I actually brought one.
Yeah,
There's pictures of Gail.
Like that thing you can't get off your shoe.
Can we still put Kim in? Yeah, I was a Kim.
She was here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Board of Finance was right
Because
here.
you didn't want to be here. If I was closer, I would
Wheel.
Both cameras are up and working, Bob.
This.
Look here on this. I see.
I wonder if it's appropriate to name the county.
This was,
How old is this Oliver? Before.
I don't think it's a good way to
Yeah,
start.
yeah.
I'll stay out of it.
Yeah, have to have her look at it and say, yeah, we think she's good, but.